Carney, come on down. There she goes. Now take your time. Take your time.
Come on, Kathleen.
I'm going to have to hold you to bringing out the guitar at some point.
Maybe. We might do some rapping instead. We might get Oren to do his rap.
I would definitely take that. But to get us started, John, I wonder if you could talk about what inspired the story and this character. I mean, you have this amazing ability to make us fall in love with these messy characters, and I just wanted to hear about where FLORA came from.
Well, if I'm honest, I would have to say my mother. And I don't want to get too emotional talking about her because she's not with us anymore. But I think if I was being honest as a creative writer sitting at home during the pandemic going, what will I write now? Maybe I'll write like a huge, big, epic action movie because I'd be really good at that. Or will I write something that I know I can talk about as enthusiastically as I am now, 2 years later. And I thought, okay, well, I'll dig deep and I'll go into my own heart and try and write something small. And I thought about my relationship with my mother when I was a little thug, like even worse than him. And she, I said, will you buy me a guitar? Because I fell in love with music. My brother got me into music and she did. And I will talk about that later, but that was the chief impetus to try and write something super personal that wouldn't run out of meaning for me as a writer. So that's kind of the original place for it.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear from our cast, as well. When you read the script, what was the moment, or what about the script really drew you to the film?
Well, I'm staying to the left, but first of all, the script was just great, but then this man and the movies that he's made, and I'm a huge fan of the genre of musical movies, but I dislike most musical movies. And he manages to write this balance between bringing the magic that music can, and yet making it feel human and real and not ridiculous. And I begged him. I was like, please let me be in your movie. And I had to convince him because he took some convincing. But I'm so happy and grateful that you let me be a part of this. I'm just so proud to be in it.
Me too.
Well, I really enjoyed reading the script, and I think I could really relate to Max as like a troubled teenager that's trying to find his way in the world. Obviously, I didn't go to the extent that he did as robbing any shops. Yeah, I could really relate to like a troubled teenager who's still trying to find his place and find out where he is in the world, and that really drew me to the script.
Oren is one of the best children I have ever met. Just to say. I was sent the script by my amazing agent, James Farrell. And I read it and I was like, there's no way they'll give that to me. And then we Skyped or Zoomed or whatever. And I said, I want to do it. And which I never say in meetings, which I'll now say from now on. And you were like, okay.
Are easy casting films?
It was wild. But I just really wanted to play the part because it was honestly one of the best scripts I've ever read, and in terms of the character, just what a wild, beautiful, broken nut job. And I just really felt like I needed to do it, and I've known John for years and we've never worked together before, and I'm such a fan of his work, and I'm so glad that we got to do this movie because it was one of the best experiences I've ever had making a movie. And that's all I'm going to say about that before I start crying.
Yeah, I read the script, and it was funny because we did Sing Street a few years ago and had an absolute blast. Yeah, all the old hits. No, but John sent me the script, and I was when I started to read it, I was a bit trepidatious, and I was going, okay, I'm going to have to ring back now and tell him what I think about it, and is it going to be as good as Sing Street, or whatever. But I read it, and I rang him, and I was like, man, you've got to do this. This is unbelievable. And I really felt like the relationships in it were so authentic, And just for me, the character just like jumped off the page as well, and I was like, brilliant, I know this guy, you know. And it was just so much fun to get back into working with John again. He's always just an amazing guy to work with, and it doesn't feel like work, it just feels like having a laugh and hanging out.
Doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, and the comedy was so great too. It was so great to sit in with him and hear people laugh. And, yeah, I really loved it. I want to open it up. There's some questions. Over here.
I'm John. Nice to meet you. John. I wanted to ask, like, what was the process like with writing the scripts? Like, did you write the songs before, after, or a combination of both?
So here's how I write. I sit at the computer and I write a scene and then I get bored and restless. And to not smoke, because I smoke a couple of cigarettes a day, so to not smoke, when I get bored of a scene and I have a seat with wheels on it and I push myself away from the desk to the piano or the guitar, and then I fiddle around in the guitar and I'm like, why not just put that in this, because this is really boring now. And it's from being bored and having a very low threshold for, I'm very easily distracted and I don't have great concentration. So I put music in to make it interesting for me. And then that little piece of music will inform a piece of the writing, and then the writing will inform the music. And a bit like, I think Joe does a bit in the same way. It's like the two things sort of just gel. I don't think I could ever write a 90-page script with wall-to-wall dialogue. It seems to be music has been there in my life. At every major decision I've ever made, there's been something playing, which I think is God's way of saying, or whatever you believe in, but it's some way that the universe says, go on, fuck it, do it. Because the Cure is playing while you're thinking about it. Go and ask her for a dance, fuck it, go and do it, because the record is playing. And so music is always in my life in that way, so that the two things just come naturally to me.
Are you writing the music, composing it, or the lyrics too?
So here's how we work. I write a shit song and then I give it to Gary Clark and he writes it really good. Makes it really good. All the bits that you're humming walking out of here are that Gary wrote, and all the bits that you're like, totally can't remember, that's my genius there. And then actually myself, we'll tell the story, but like we wrote all together, myself and Joe and Eve and Gary, and sometimes Oren threw in a line. Like, we kind of created a lot of the soundtrack together as we were filming, the morning before filming.
Can I tell this story? Because it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. At first, it was fucking terrifying. Because you want to know what you're going to be doing when you go to do it. It's the normal thing that you kind of know what the lines are going to be, you know what the song is going to be. We had a recording session scheduled. We're like, oh cool, we're going to record a song. What song? We showed up, and I was like, cool, what's the song? He's like, well, let's talk about it. And I was like, okay, great. And then you showed up, and then we all talked about it, and over the next 8 hours, we wrote a song together. And I've never had a filmmaker invite me in to their process quite as intimately and spontaneously as John. And at first, it was so different for me that I was uncomfortable. But by the end, I was like, he's doing this on purpose. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is how he catches lightning in a bottle. He makes sure to not quite know what's going to happen so that we can all figure it out together. And it's so gutsy. It takes real courage to do it that way. But I had a blast doing it. And this is, you have a track record to back it up. So I'm really an admirer of how you do it.
Yeah, I just want to say it's one of the scariest and spontaneous things working with John, because it all comes out of him sort of like lightning, and in the middle of a scene or something, he'll just be like, oh my god, and you're like, what? I don't get that. And then he makes you do it, and it becomes so funny, and it becomes such a part of the scene. It's like, it was such an instinctive thing, and that was the same thing when we did the songwriting. As I walked into the recording studio shitting myself, and John's just sitting there with the guitar going, so this is my process, and if we don't come up with anything good, we're not going to shoot it next week. And I was like, oh, okay. And within 8 hours, we had written and recorded a song, and also managed to get lunch. It was incredible.